Frobenius Institute, which is the cultural anthropology department of the Frankfurt University. They had photographs of black soldiers which were prisoners of war in Germany, but not in the Second World War, in the First World War. And this was the idea to make this exhibition. We have stunning photographs, portraits of 10 soldiers which come from Africa, and they were taken prisoner in the first month of the First World War and came into a prisoner of war camp south of Berlin, and the photographs were taken there. So I think we don't know it exactly of the 10 persons we show in the exhibition. I think they were in the time before the First World War broke out. They came voluntarily to the army. They got money there. It was a better life than starving somewhere in Africa. But after the first month of the war, and I think about 1 million people, men, died in the first month. I don't know. I presume that they got a kind of military training, of course. They came from Africa, they were colonial subjects, and they had white officers. They had to learn the commands in the military, but they didn't learn French in a complete way. But okay, they had to be trained in use of the weapons and all this military stuff. They were selected and came into one camp because there were Muslims. This is a part of German politics during the First World War, and in this camp there were about 12,000 people, mostly Muslims, be Indians in the British Empire, or from Africa or Indochina in the French Empire, or even from Russia. The Russian Empire was not a colonial power as the others, but they had a kind of colonization south of Russia. This what now it is. There are some independent states like Kazakhstan or whatever, and the people there living there were mostly Muslims, and this was the reason why they were put together in this camp in south of Berlin, because they wanted, the German army wanted them to change sides, and Germany was had an ally, and it was the Osmanic Empire, Turkey, and they should change sides and fight on the Turkish side against their colonial suppressors, so to say, France and Great Britain. No, actually, the plan didn't work out. Out of the 12,000 Muslim prisoners of war in Germany, less than 1,000 changed the side and went to Turkey. So, and most of them, I think, they were deployed at the Palestinian front and the Mesopotamian front, and they changed again sides because they didn't want to be soldiers in a war which is very far from them. It was not their interest to fight. There was even they built a mosque for the Muslim soldiers. They printed a weekly journal called El Jihad, the Holy War, because Turkey declared the Holy War against France and Great Britain. So it was they did a lot, but they didn't succeed. They were transferred to Romania, and there were also prisoner of war camps where they lived, and they were photographed there again. In the last weeks of the First World War, the 4 persons of the soldiers of which we show the photographs were again photographed by scholars who made their physical anthropology studies. It was a racist theory of that time that you could categorize people just by the outer, by their faces, by their ears, by I don't know what. And they were photographed. And so we know now their names because the scholars, they wrote down the names. And so I presume when the war ended 2 weeks later, they returned first to France and then to Africa, to Senegal, wherever they came from. The German propaganda started in the early month of the war in 1914 with a very bad thing, because when German troops conquered Belgium, which was a neutral state at that time, they burned a library in Leuven, which was very famous and a very bad act, because the university was 600 years old and German troops burned all the books in it. So the Germans had a very bad propaganda against them, because they were called wild people and without any culture, and so they thought about a kind of anti-propaganda to say, oh, this countries like France and Britain, they have colonial soldiers and they fight against us white Germans, and this is a kind of it's not they are wild beasts, and you can't do that. And this was a sound, a very bad sound of the German propaganda during all the First World War. You got the idea of the crimes of the nationalist socialists in the Second World War, because it was very, very bad. And they depicted the colonial soldiers not as human beings, as animals. And this is a bad thing, I think. And the ambivalent, when Germans looked at Africa, it's kind of fascination by a foreign region of the world, and it came to an end. Maybe some Germans they went to the prison of war camps and looked at the colonial soldiers, at the black soldiers, because they were so interesting. Okay, after the war, which Germany lost, large parts of Germany were occupied by troops from France, from Belgium, from Great Britain. And under these soldiers were also colonial soldiers, black soldiers, soldiers from Africa, soldiers from India. And again, the German propaganda started to say, oh, it's a kind of black shame for us Germans. We have to greet black soldiers, we have to step down in the gutter when they come across the street. So and the thing which is more bad even is these are men, these are black men, and they will rape German women. So this was a kind of propaganda which prevailed during in the time after the First World War, right into the Nazi time. And I think maybe this is one of the reasons why there's always a kind of distance to the black people who are now living in Germany. Okay, my name is Benedikt Burkhardt, and I'm a curator for historical exhibitions, and I work for different museums, mainly in Frankfurt. And I studied, when I studied many years ago, I studied sociology, and after that I was working as an editor in a publishing house. And 15 years ago I started curating exhibitions.